Minutes to take their digital seats. Hi, everyone, and welcome to this webinar on tackling behaviors that challenge us. My name is Rachel Hutchison. I am a Senior Manager of Online Instructional Design here at NHSA, working specifically with the Academy, which is our home for professional learning for all of you in Head Start. And today, we're going to do a little bit of learning about joyful support using a little something we like to call ARFF. And we will explain what that means in just a second. So just to get started, you are all on mute, but you're welcome to put questions in the chat. Our speakers are wonderful about answering those as we go, so do feel free to do that. This meeting is being recorded, so you're welcome to come back and watch it later, share it with others on your team, and the resources that we mentioned will be available in a follow-up email today. You will be receiving a certificate of completion for this half hour that will be sent via email as well within the next week, so you can watch out for that. And without further ado, I'm so excited to introduce our speakers. We have with us today Dr. Deb Bergeron, formerly known, well, still known as Dr. B, formerly Director of the Office of Head Start, and now the Deputy Director of Innovation and Community Engagement here at NHSA. And Nick, the Music Man Young. He is an early childhood music educator and the owner of the Young Music Company. And he's going to talk a lot about how to make music time joyful for everybody. All right,
Yeah.
so let's jump into it. Let's start with the weird part. What does ARFF mean? And why is that important? Why are we talking about an acronym today? Go ahead,
I'll
Deb.
jump in with that one. That's a tenet of Trust First, which is a class that I teach as part of our classroom management credential here at NHSA. But it is actually, Trust First is something that I have practiced for decades. And it's an amazing method. I hate even calling it classroom management because it isn't so much about managing the classroom as it is about coming up with your own new sort of self-management system that then influences your classroom. So it is sort of a complex concept, but part of it is centered around this idea of ARF, and ARF stands for achievement, respect, freedom, and fun. And the idea behind ARF, this is a very high level, quick definition so that we can dig deeper into some other things here. 30 minutes is enough time. But the idea behind ARF is that when all four of those things are balanced in a human being, they're pretty well. They're good. They're probably doing pretty well. So if you think even about your own self, when you feel successful, when you feel respected, when you feel like you have a little bit of choice and you're not locked in, and when you have a little bit of fun, and those things are all kind of balanced, you tend to be pretty balanced and capable of making decisions, dealing with problems, going through your day in a much smoother way. Children are exactly the same way. So your work as a trust first focused teacher is to be able to identify, first of all, to teach those things to kids, but then to identify when a child, part of a child's ARF is running low. Because then if you can fill that back up, they then become balanced again. And you're not doing so much reactive discipline, it's very proactive. That's the idea. So that's a very quick nutshell definition of ARF. I think we're going to dig into one of those today.
We sure are. We are going to focus on the respect aspect of ARF today. And one of the things that my buddy Nick, the Music Man, knows how to do really well is to respect the kids in the classroom, even those who maybe have a lot of energy to give. So, what does that look like in the classroom for you, Nick? What does ARF look like at music and movement time?
Well, thank you, Rachel, and thank you, Dr. B, for that great definition. I love working with Dr. B in this realm because she is such a master, and I just learn every time we do one of these webinars.
Mm.
But I was the way I learn about how to interact with young children is to use respect and to treat them like human beings, and to bring energy and enthusiasm into the space and positivity, and then be ready when the challenges crop up and to deal with the challenges in a way that's based in respect for the children. So, using positive language, giving choices, um, making sure that all the children are safe, of course, but I think one of the most important things is to make sure that I'm taking care of myself, my own mental health, so that when I come into that space, I can come in with humility and I can come in with really being aware of what's going on and tuning in to the children. I think one of the ways that I can help to manage the energy in the room so that it stays focused on positive creativity is to make it really interactive. So I'm receiving information, ideas, and input from the children, and I'm incorporating that into what I'm presenting back to them. So if I'm doing music in the classroom, in an early childhood classroom, I'm always got my ears and my eyes open so that if a child is going to throw out an idea or something, I can incorporate that into what I'm doing. And I think that helps them to feel validated and seen. And it really is fun for everyone because we get to be collaborative and creative together. And I think, sometimes teachers, I have so much respect for teachers, classroom teachers that are with the children all day long because to maintain that kind of openness and interactivity, I know can be taxing and challenging. But I think that's why we have to rely on our co-teachers and other resources that we have to stay in that mind space of being respectful to the children in that way. So, yeah.
Yeah. Holy smokes. I mean, as Dr. B mentioned, there's no way we can cover and unpack all of this in half an hour, but I hope you took away some really key messages that Nick had in there, which is that your health and wellness is exceedingly important in order to be able to provide the children a safe, well, and trusting space to learn in. So we always start with your own ARF, your own balance, and where you might need to pay a little bit more attention to your own needs as well. We're not going to dive into that too much today, but we do have other resources at the Academy and
But
at
I want to
NHS.
dive into it just a little, if that's okay, because it's
All right.
really important. When I heard Nick say that, I was like, yes, we don't script this out. He and I just play off each other, and I love it when he says something that just goes right like this. When we teach trust first, every single skill we teach is first that from the teacher standpoint. That's why I said it isn't. It's so many classroom management programs are about how you're going to go in and get kids to do what you want them to do. And the problem with that is it's a setup for failure for the kids who need you the most. It will work fine for the 80% of the kids who will do what you want them to do anyway. I mean, let's be real. Many kids will just do what adults tell them. It's the chunk that challenge us that cause the issues. What we focus on in Trust First, and I am diverting a little here, but it is really important, is that this does start with you. So when we teach ARF, before you ever talk about it with children, you do your own ARF analysis. And then you do some daily reflections and like check-ins so that you can get a sense of, oh, I'm not feeling very successful right now. And that's why I'm frustrated. Because then you can start to really understand that child who is sitting trying to do the task you just taught who can't do it is frustrated, and you're seeing it come out in a different way. And so their achievement is low, and so they may choose to act out depending on the child. So that part that Rachel's talking about is not just a little bit important. It is paramount that you are thinking about this, that you come first, you master these skills first, and then when you go into your classrooms with your children and you're teaching them a particular skill, it's something they're already seeing you do. So it isn't like you're teaching them something over here that only the kids do. This is about a whole community. So I know we're going to go into one of the ARF pieces, and as Rachel talks about that, it's going to start with you.
It's a whole philosophy and a mindset, which is why we always warn we can't get into all of it in half an hour. But that is just such a great intro, Nick. And he talked about all kinds of things we won't have time to talk about today. What we really want to focus on right now is that 20% that Dr. B was mentioning. We have those kids who are communicating that their needs are out of balance. And we want to talk specifically about respect. When a child is not getting the respect that they need, what does that look like? How do they communicate that? And those of you in the classroom probably have all kinds of examples. So please feel free to put those in the chat, share them with one another. What do you think that looks like? But Nick, You're in with music and movement kids all the time. What are you seeing?
Yeah, I was just mentioning before we started that I taught six music groups this morning at a preschool program here in California, and I'm encountering all these things and all the the sensory sensitivities and neurodiversity and everything is very prevalent in the classrooms. But I think a lot of it is we're these children are coming into the classroom from home where they are dealing with all kinds of different situations, tons of different things going on. So, sometimes we have children who are just coming in very strong, I think, as a defense mechanism, as a way of protecting themselves, because maybe their other environments that they're in have some stuff that they need to be really strong in order to kind of contend with. So I think a lot of times when we are in the classroom and we see a child who's kind of being rough with the other kids, or really smart kids that have behavior issues that are super challenging, and I know a lot of teachers are identifying with this. It's sometimes it's difficult to have that sense of empathy because you feel so challenged, in that moment by that child. And I think that's why it's so important, this respect element, to remember I'm a teacher, this is a child, and no matter how triggering their behavior might be, I need to maintain my mental stability and not get drawn in. Because some of these children, it's like they can draw you into a situation where you feel like you're contending with them. And I think the thing that disarms that for me is to just to come at them with respect and kindness, and to take the time and give them the attention that maybe they're craving. And I know that when we're dealing with a whole group of kids, and many of them in that group may be very challenging, we might not feel like we have enough time or energy to do that. Hopefully we have the resources that are going to support us in that we can say, okay, I see this one child, especially today, they're really triggered, and that's causing other children to have challenges, and maybe even I'm feeling challenged. How can I support that child? I think there's all different ways. And of course, I'm coming in with music. So, I might give that child a special role in the music group for a little while, or I may move them to another part of the group where they're having less of a challenge with their behavior. Or I might directly say, okay, I'm seeing, oh, you got a Spider-Man shirt on? Let's do a song about Spider-Man, or some way that I can make something special happen for them where they really feel seen and validated. And that's just a tiny little step on the journey of reaching that child in a way where they feel your kindness and your respect and your attention that you're willing to share with them.
Yeah, the support of a child who needs to feel seen and heard is really what I'm pulling out of what you're saying there, that a child who doesn't feel seen and doesn't feel heard is not getting the respect that they need, no matter their age. Everyone wants to feel understood. Dr. B, what would you add?
Well, first of all, I would say for those who aren't familiar with the sort of classroom management work that we do here, we combine these different approaches. Nick is one of them, and his focus is on music. And one thing I would say about his work is the beauty of music is that it has this sort of universal non-judgmental respect for all humans. That is one of the benefits of his program, because you bring children into a space where they all can feel successful, and they
Mm.
all can feel loved, and they have freedom of expression, and most kids think it's fun. You might have a couple with sensory issues who struggle with music, but mostly kids are going to love that. And so I do want to point out that sort of organically, the music methods that he uses in kind of encapsulate respect sort of organically. Now, if I shift over to trust first and I talk about how respect um, kind of plays out in this space, I'm going to go back to what we talked about first and say it starts with you. So what's interesting is Rachel's question was, what does it look like when a child is lacking respect or feeling like they're not getting enough respect? I don't think there's a specific answer. I think it can look like a lot of different things. It's going to depend on the child. I think someone even put in the chat, some kids act out and some retreat, right? So when they feel deficient in any one of those ARFF pieces, they have different responses. I think more important than knowing like exactly what things look like is being able to know your children well enough to know their triggers, and then also to have conversations with them so that you can understand where they are. So a child, and starting with yourself, the question I like to ask teachers when we do this exercise, sort of in a much deeper way, on the respect piece, I ask them, who loves you and how do you know? Now, that's a funny question to use. Most people think that's kind of a weird question for getting to respect. But we believe in trust first, that respect feels a lot like love, that it's not really that different. And when you can figure out who loves you and how do you know, it's a great question to just think about right now. Not just the who loves you part, but then how do you know it? And when you answer the how do you know part, what you're identifying is how you feel respected and loved. And that's different in different people. Some people feel it. I hear some people say, my kids love me because they tell me every day. But some people will say, my kids love me because they sit on my lap at night when I sit on the couch and cuddle me. Like, how do you feel that and how do you communicate? When you understand how your children feel respected and loved, you'll be better capable of identifying when that's deficient. And that takes a little bit of time. And with younger children, it's a little less prescriptive. I would say with older children, you can get to some of these answers by understanding how they respond to things. So that's very dynamic and complex, I suppose. But at the end of the day, what you know about, and this goes to some of what Nick was talking about your children's external existence, are they coming from parents who are nurturing them and caring for them? The vast majority of our children come from very loving homes, even if they are living in poverty. That doesn't mean they're living without love and respect. Those are not the same thing. But some of our children are not coming from homes where they are feeling that sense of belonging and love. If you know that's the case, then you're probably consistently dealing with a child who is struggling with that. But even if a child is fully loved and respected at home, they can come to school and have experiences that make them feel lesser or not respected or not loved. And that can come from an adult, it can come from another child, it can come from a reaction to something that they're trying to do. Sometimes it's as simple as playground activity and someone getting in front of someone else on the slide. That can feel deflating. So this goes from very simple things to very complex things in terms of what drives our levels of respect or love. The important takeaway from today to me is that you consider respect and love as one of those four tires that has to be filled and even in the ARFF world. If you can just think about this one piece for the next week about how are you impacted by it, and then start to watch your children and see when you can identify, the respect tire's low. They just need a little more. They just need a little more. And figure out how you can fill that up. See if that doesn't have an impact on how they then are responding. Now, there was a really good comment in the chat about health issues. I want to be really clear that when we teach a class called Tackling Behaviors That Challenge Us, we are talking about classroom management and managing children and behavior systems and things like that we implement in the classroom. There are certainly children who have legitimate medical issues that they have to have addressed. And we in no way would ever imply that what we are teaching is related to a response to a child with a medical issue. So I want to be really clear that you are going to have children who need way more than Trust First or music or classroom management. Any classroom management system is going to get to. But I would argue this: if you find a program, and I love ours, I'm a little selfish that way, that works for you, and you're able to create a classroom that embraces achievement, respect, freedom, and fun in a way that builds trust, what you do is you create a relationship with the majority of your children that supports a humming of the classroom, like a very balance of the classroom, so that your children who do need legitimate medical intervention, and I'm using the word medical, but you know what that looks like. That's an evaluation and a lot of other things that go into that. It allows you the space to be okay with that because you've got this very particular situation over here, but the vast majority of your children are self-sufficient because you've created this very um, trust-based centered classroom. That's my experience, and that's how I teach trust first. It's from that perspective, not that we're going to go in and then like fix every child and somehow taking the place of legitimate intervention. You never want to imply that.
Mm.
So this is clearly a rich and complicated topic. Respect is so easy to say and so hard to define. And like Dr. B said, everyone feels it a little differently. So it really comes down to those relationships. But we like to give in these little 30-minute segments party favor, something that you can go and try tomorrow and see if it helps. So why don't we start with Nick? And Nick, when you're in music and movement time, how do you like some practical things that if a teacher's like, I can't do music and movement, it just gets too wild, it's beyond me. Like, what are some ways that they can show the kids respect and have a really great experience together?
Ooh, I love that. Thank you, Rachel. And I wanted to tag off of Dr. B a little bit. I think one of the things that really is so powerful about Dr. B's approach is having this establishing this structure and this approach, uh, so that when you are in the classroom environment, you are following an approach and a method that you've already thought out, learned about. You've taken Dr. B's course, so you have all these tools. And when you're just the way that you're being present in the classroom and the way that you're interacting with the children is all in line with this approach that really is it's so powerful as a way of just kind of creating a culture and an environment that leads naturally to the result that we're all seeking when we're trying to manage a group. And I think, my approach in the music and movement is similar because I'm coming in with my set attitude about how I'm going to be around these kids, whether they're the most docile kids or the most outrageous kids. I'm going to have the same basic energy as I come in of joy and respect and participation and collaboration. And I think because I'm, like when I'm dealing with a challenging behavior, like, and I hear what you're saying, Rachel, about how a lot of teachers shy away from kind of real physical, interactive music activities in the classroom because they feel like, well, that's just going to get out of control. My kids are going to be bouncing off the walls, and then won't be able to calm them down. But I think when you're coming in and you're giving them an opportunity to use their energy in a way that's creative and collaborative, then we have these class management techniques that are really helpful in order to maintain safety and a degree of order that we need to have since we're inside of a classroom. So we're not going to be like running top speed towards the wall, but we are going to be crawling like a spider, hopping like a frog, and flying like a butterfly, and doing that with our invisible bubble around our bodies so we make sure that we're not bumping our friends. But I think, one thing that was coming through really strongly to me when Dr. B was just talking was I want to, I'm creating an atmosphere and an environment in the classroom so that when I've got all my students are together, we're all moving around like different animals in the group space, and I'm playing my song. And while that's going on, there's this one child who their choice right at that moment to tackle their friend and body slam their friend or something like that. So I'm going to need to redirect their energy in a way that's not stopping everything and taking the attention from everybody else and just directing it towards that one child, but sort of saying, hey, I've got a special space for you right over here. This is your new spot. It's your super, super special spot. And I did that today in a class with two children that were having a kind of an interaction, and she was like, "Oh, okay." Went to her special spot, and she was still in the group, just in a different place. All of a sudden, the whole thing was working better. But I think also what I want to do is I want those children to, while they get caught up in their own behavior and in their own, they feel like a need to be disruptive because they need to draw attention to themselves for some kind of an emotional need that's not being met somehow. But if I'm creating a culture in the group where they see all of us moving together and cooperating, there's a good chance that that child is going to sort of run out of gas with this disruptive behavior and sort of align with what we're doing. And because what we're doing is so fun and interactive and attractive to them, I think there's a high chance that those children, they just kind of fall in with the rest of the group. And, they may bump out again and start doing that behavior again. But I think the more I kind of maintain this kind of momentum of all working together and everyone being creative in their own way, there's definitely an art to it. But a lot of times those behavior issues just get kind of swept up into the group, and they just kind of resolve themselves. And I think that's an important, because we can't sit there and micromanage each child and each time there's something going on, because that's actually counterproductive in my experience. We kind of have to be able to draw them into what we're doing in a way that just overcomes that urge for them to be disruptive in a negative way.
So always in a respectful manner, just kind of moving the chemistry of the group around, keep everybody engaged. He's absolutely brilliant at it. I've seen him do it. Dr. B, anything to add?
Yes, and he has lots of fans. There are lots of music fans in the chat. They all believe in it, Nick. You've got the
Yay.
believers here. Yeah, I'm going to give you two quick party favors. Really, the one I want you to take away from today is your own respect sort of evaluation. See if you can start to go through your day and check your own respect tire and see if you notice when it's low, how you fill it up. If you can get in touch with your own sense of that, you're going to have a much easier time transferring that to your children. And of course, the other four tires that we talk about in Trust First are vitally important. All four tires have to be filled for the car to run. So they're all important. But I'm going to give you a more practical party favor, because I really love party favors you can go and use tomorrow. This is such a simple one. When you are directing children in the classroom, start using the precursor, you can or you may. So we are going to shift from what we typically do with children is we either demand that they do something. So we just say, Jose, come to the carpet. That's called a demand, because there's an understood demand that comes before that, Jose, come to the carpet. Or we beg them by saying something like, Jose, please come to the carpet. So now we've shifted the tone from a demand to more of a begging, which we call polite. But when you're asking children to do something that they should be doing, we shouldn't be begging them to do it. Okay, this is so much longer than 30 minutes, but this is a simple one. Don't worry about why. Just trust me on this one. Go into your classroom, and when you want to direct a child to do something who's maybe not outright refusing, but hasn't quite made it there, and you're ready to or push their chair in or whatever, just use you can or you may. Do the experiment, see how it works. Come see us at our next webinar and tell me what you think. It's super magic. And the explanation behind it, I don't have time for today, but I will explain it to you if you want to know later. Give it a try.
Even better, we have an entire classroom management credential that we would love, love, love to have you join us for, so you can spend significant time with Dr. B, with Nick, and with our other fabulous teachers. So we have just filled up for this spring. That class is full. Enrollment for fall is open, and it tends to fill up. So like now would be a great time to just put your hat in that ring and say, I definitely want to do this. I want to learn more about how to create this environment in my classroom. If there are education managers on the call, we've created a group break for this. So you could send a whole bunch of teachers, coaches, bring your instructional team and come learn together. What a great way to implement it all across your program and see all boats rise. So we really hope that we will see you in our next webinar next month. We are going to be talking about the good thinker method. And we also hope that you have a wonderful day. You are a wonderful you doing wonderful work. Thanks so much, Head Start, for everything that you bring to your communities. We appreciate you. Have a good one.
Awesome. See you in class, everyone.